On May 27, 2016, Barack Obama stood at the citizens of Hiroshima, Japan. On his tour of Japan, he apologized for the bombings of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Although I admire his apology, this actually made me mad. This made me mad because while the U.S. has apologized for what they've done in the war, Japan hasn't owned up to its atrocities and war crimes during World War II. What Japan did should be brought to attention and condemned by other nations of the world. Not just Pearl Harbor or battles in the Pacific, but these are things that are far worse. Because of the treatment of citizens, the erasing of history, and the failure to publicly acknowledge the extent of their actions, people should join the movement to make Japan apologize to the world for what they've done in World War II. It's argued that it wasn't Poland, but actually Japan's invasion of China in 1937 that sparked World War II. During this campaign, where they took over China, Korea, and other Southeast Asian nations, Japan committed atrocities against its citizens, particularly in the rape of Nanking, as it's called, and is one of the most horrific parts of World War II. They would attack Chinese cities, particularly Nanking, and killed a minimum of 300,000 citizens. They would douse them in gasoline and light them on fire, use them as bayonet or machine gun practice, tested biological and chemical warfare on peoples and cities. There's one famous image of Japanese soldiers going through an orphanage and impaling children on spikes. Many tens of thousands of girls were also captured by the Japanese and used as comfort women, where they would use them as sex slaves for Japanese soldiers in the battlefield. This is something that Japanese officials denied most. They also had a unit in the army called Unit 731, which performs experiments similar to those in the Holocaust. Some would even argue even worse. Yet not only has Japan not apologized for all of these actions, they deny the extent and worked with other governments to alter history. Not only have they denied it, but they've been trying to erase history. At fault are the governments of Japan, China, and the United States. Japan would want to do this not to save face and to shed any responsibility that they would have to carry with these actions. China, particularly the government under Mao, would want their country not to look weak and have as many losses as they actually did, saying the number of people who died was far less than actually was. The U.S. would want to protect Japan, whose government they remade after the war and invested billions of dollars into to survive. All have either altered statistics to be less than what they were, counted civilian casualties as soldier casualties, or glossed over the rape of Nanking entirely in history books. This book right here, World War II, a Time Life book actually, says that only 40,000 citizens died during the rape of Nanking. That's 250,000 less than the minimum of people who died during this. General MacArthur actually granted the groups of the experiment group Unit 731 immunity for their information, according to the official site for the group's history and their surviving members, allowing them to keep their secrets and to keep this information out of the public eye. Shinzo Abe, Japan's prime minister, refused to apologize again in 2015, the 70th anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II, and said that we must squarely face history, an ironic statement at the least, considering his denial of Japan and the whitewashing of history from Japanese books in schools. Now is the time for an apology, and we have to jumpstart this movement. First, we need to gather enough people to convince our government to take action. People can spread the word across the nation to gather support for this movement. Once our government has decided to reach out to Japan, they need to publicly apologize and apologize fully. This means recognizing the extent of what they've done, apologizing for their lies and denials that they've given to cover up this information, and apologize to China, Russia, Korea, Southeast Asia, and the Philippines. Only after this can this war really be put behind us. In conclusion, Japan has committed terrible acts and denied the victims they and their families deserve by not acknowledging what they've done. It's arguable that what they've done is as bad or even worse than Germany, but on a smaller scale. Although many survivors are dead, only when an apology is made can the fallen really be put to rest. What?
I can't get it to stop